We're going to do this format a little bit differently. I think having it live allows me, one, to be a little bit more relaxed and not so uptight when I'm taping it. This will allow our producer, Micah, to basically take clips from this and formulate a offline weekly cyber update, like a summary or highlight reel that we can post later. I think it's important to go live weekly in order to, over time, gain enough followers to allow the opportunity for you to ask questions live and let me answer them. There's a lot going on in the world from all aspects. From a cybersecurity perspective, it's getting even more active. So we'll go through the news just like we normally do. It might be a little bit more loose, probably a little bit more behind the scenes than normal. The errors will not be, I can't correct the errors because we're live. But please, if you have questions, and maybe share the stream so we can stay on for about 10 or 15, 20 minutes if you want. Share the stream out to others. Let people know that, hey, he's live. We've got some questions that we want to ask about some stuff that's going on. I'm able to pull up some articles, so if it's not something I'm familiar with, I can pull it up and talk about it. But for right now, I'm just going to go into a little bit of the news, and then I'll wait for any questions or anything that you may have. So certainly one of the top things has been the automotive industry is under attack. I don't know if you guys have seen this or not, but Jaguar over in the UK has been under attack since it's been in August. I think it was August 30th. Was when they became, August 31st. Lapsus is the group. So Shiny Hunter, Scattered Spider hit Jaguar Land Rover. And right now they've been doing outages, like they've been saying they're going to be down for weeks at a time. And my phone fell. I'm trying to watch for the comments too. So Jaguar has basically been down. I think they've indicated that they're losing about 50 million pounds so far. I don't know what that conversion rate is to US dollars, if you guys over in the control room can do that. It's severely disrupted production, so that they've not been able to produce anything. This is affecting all the downstream suppliers and the supply chain inside that area. They're talking about maybe just like laying people off for a little bit because, if they can't manufacture cars, then, they just can't have people around getting paid doing nothing. So a very severe impact. And then I saw just a couple days ago that BMW, there was a threat actor that was saying that BMW had fallen victim to an attack. I still haven't seen anything recently from BMW themselves acknowledging the attack. But if you're in the automotive industry or you're in the supply chain, you're providing parts or services or things to the automotive industry, it seems that the threat actors seem to have their eye on the larger organizations. I know in the past, Toyota has also fallen victim multiple times. Hopefully, they've had some corrective action on their network from that perspective, but just giving you an idea of what's going on the BMW and Jaguar side. And then yesterday, I actually did an interview for a local Ohio TV station. I did an interview for NBC4. And we were talking about the TransUnion cyber attack, where TransUnion had fallen victim to an attack by the same threat actor, where basically they're attacking Salesforce. Salesforce, if you don't know, is a US-based company that provides CRM or customer resource management software to organizations. The way CRM software will work is like maybe you call into, so from a TransUnion perspective, let's say you call into TransUnion because you have a question about their services or you're trying to log into your TransUnion account and you can't do it, so you call support. They will use something like Salesforce to log a help desk ticket in order to provide support for you. So that sales or that support ticket may contain some personally identifiable information or sensitive information, like your name, address, phone number, those types of things. And so basically, threat actors, this particular threat actor is going after, they've went after Google. They've hit Cloudflare, Zscaler, Tenable, CyberArk, Elastic, Beyond Trust, Proofpoint, Nutanix, Rubrik, if Cato, Palo Alto. If you're in the industry, you know that these are very large companies. Adidas, Louis Vuitton, Tiffany and Company have all fallen victim. Qantas, Aligns Life. That's the travel company that provides like travel insurance. I'm sure I pronounced it wrong. But almost everybody that would watch this stream, now all four of you, have likely fallen victim to this in some way. So Salesforce itself is not compromised. What's happening is the individual uses of Salesforce likely has not been done in a secure manner. For example, enforcing something like multi-factor authentication in order to make sure that at TransUnion, somebody that's logging into Salesforce has used a multi-factor. So what can you do? Basically, you don't have any control over these situations. These companies are falling victim, and they have access to your confidential and personal information, and you're just really trusting. You're really trusting that they have done all the right things on the back end, that they're enforcing MFA, multi-factor, and they're keeping your data safe. Ultimately, a lot of these organizations are not, and that's unfortunate. So the best thing you can do is freeze your credit. Unfortunately, that also requires contacting TransUnion. I think you can do it without contacting them. I think you can just go online. So you've got TransUnion, Experian, and Equifax. So those are the three major credit bureaus. So freeze your credit. Be very attentive to transactions in your bank account. Watch for fraudulent transactions. Set up alerts. Set up alerts inside your banking systems to let you know when deposits and withdrawals are made, that type of thing, to just keep you aware. Because what we don't want to happen is we don't want a large amount of time to go by before you've noticed. If you're able to get in front of it soon, you can get to the bank or call them and interrupt any of those fraudulent transactions. So I would continue to see this happening. This is a social engineering attack. They're just literally the threat actor is contacting these companies and manipulating them into getting access, and they're using a legitimate Salesforce data extraction tool in order to offload that information. So once they have the account, once they have the information to get in, they're just basically exfiltrating the data. So that's what's going on with TransUnion. Haven't seen any questions as of yet. To go into a little bit more of the news. So Google has removed 224 Android malware apps behind a massive ad fraud campaign. So this has been ongoing and will likely be ongoing, where somebody like Google, and Apple struggles with this as well. You've got the App Store for Apple, and you've got the Play Store for Google. And what ends up happening is bad apps end up on these platforms. You may think that the process in order to get the app on the platform, the app is secure, and the answer, unfortunately, is not necessarily the case. So they do these campaigns. Both Google and Apple do this, and they remove a lot of these malicious apps, which is great. But there's so many more, right? They're not going to get them all. So what do you do? Well, at the consumer level, you basically you have to pay attention to the apps and what you're downloading. You have to look at the permissions that the app is trying to get, and do your best to stay with mainstream apps. When you start venturing off and installing weird apps that have weird permissions, you're offering something into your environment that you may not want. From a business perspective, this gets into the conversation about BYOD, the bring your own device, versus issuing a device that's controlled by the company. If you are a BYOD organization and you're issuing devices, or you're letting users use their own device, you still should be implementing some type of device management software, whether that's Microsoft has Intune. There are other, there's so many. I don't know. I'm not, offering a suggestion for any one. I just know that Microsoft has one where you can still allow an organization to maintain a little bit of control over the device because it does have access to corporate level data, and it's your personal device. There's got to be some give and take on the control side. So if you are a business and you are letting your employees use their own device, and you're also allowing those devices to access corporate material, you need to have some type of device management. So just be aware that happens. The other thing that happens, by the way, is the sponsored ads. So if you've ever done a search in Google and you've seen a sponsored ad, just be aware that not all those ads are good. You may think that because it's a sponsored ad that was a good person took that ad out and it's legit. And unfortunately, the bad guys have figured out ways to take out those ads. And then they get out on the search engine. And when you click on one of those sponsored ads, unfortunately, it takes you to a malicious site. So just be aware. A lot of the answer to this, guys, is training. I just got back from Japan, and I was out there for about 8 or 9 days and attended a couple global cybersecurity discussions. And believe it or not, we weren't discussing a tremendous amount of tools and firewalls and who's using what software and those types of things. It really was a discussion on training. And at the end of the day, we need to spend more time both on the personal side and on the business side. You all that are out there need to start consuming this information in some way and learning how to protect yourself from a digital perspective. If you've already got those resources, that's great. I hear Clark Howard out there, a consumer advocate, out giving recommendations for protecting consumers, and that's great. Clark's information is generally legit, but if you're a business, a small business, if you're a managed service provider, maybe this outlet is where you get that information and you get up to speed. You can always head out to our website and also sign up for our newsletter. That might be a way for you to stay up to date, but stay plugged in to what is going on in order to protect yourself. So if there are any questions about any of this stuff so far, the ads or how to protect yourself, both business and personal, please don't hesitate, again, to share this stream and put that out there. We're talking about anything cybersecurity today, personal, business, whatever you got. If you have questions, let's get them answered. So let's talk about another article that came up. By the way, thank you to Bleeping Computer. This is where we get a lot of these articles from them. They are a phenomenal organization. They provide great, timely information from a cyber perspective, and a lot of the articles I talk about come from Bleeping Computer. So thank you to them for that great coverage that they have. So FinWise had an insider breach. FinWise is American First Finance, and a former FinWise bank employee accessed customer files after termination. Unfortunately, we see this happening a lot as well. So it's not always the bad guys from the outside. Sometimes it's the employees that get fired. And you may say, well, why is that a problem? Don't people take them out of the system after they've been terminated? Yeah, they do, but not always in a timely manner. And sometimes they forget about them. So in this particular case, the internal person had access to customer files after termination, and he basically got a hold of about 689,000 American First Finance customers' data. AFF, which is the company, provides installment loans and lease-to-own programs, with FinWise being the originating bank. So the incident involved unauthorized insider access, and it occurred in May of 2024. We don't know, we do not know how they accessed the information quite yet. It was misuse of credentials, and basically, this is a result of weak offboarding HR controls. So if you're a business out there and you're terminating employees, you have to make sure that you're doing this in a timely manner. So this was reported to the Maine AG's office. Full names and sensitive data was exposed. I'm sure there's going to be some type of lawsuit flying for this. I think they're giving 12 months of credit monitoring. And again, I just want to emphasize this is an insider threat. There was a matter of fact, just in the news within the last week or so, there was an incident down in Tennessee where we had a couple employees inside a water treatment plant that actually ended up discharging contaminated water through an insider threat. I don't know why they did this, but I don't want you to stay focused too much on externally and defending your organization from external threats. You should also keep in mind that insider threats are definitely a threat. From a Microsoft perspective, there's a couple things going on. One, Microsoft Office 2016 and 2019 reach end of support. You may say that's crazy. Why would you even mention that? Who would be using software of that age? And the answer is a lot of people. I was talking with somebody just the other day who said that Windows Vista is still used inside an organization. Those of you that may be out there listening, what have you seen? What's the oldest operating system you've seen? We actually saw Windows 95 inside a local government at one point, and that was definitely surprising. There's also the Windows 10 goes end of life in October. So it's September 19th right now. And if you are still running Windows 10, you're running out of time. So you have to get to Windows 11 soon in order to make sure that you're able to still get security updates and protect your organization. So Windows 10, you should get it out of there as soon as possible. Still no questions. So again, we're answering questions today about anything on your mind from a cyber perspective, whether that's personal, business, how to protect yourself, what software to use, what hardware to use. Please share this stream with others. If you've got burning cyber questions, maybe you've had identity theft. I've been doing a lot of training all over the state of Ohio for the Ohio School Resource Officers Association. That's been going well. Been training law enforcement officers to get them up to speed with cyber. That's been going well. In Ohio, we've been talking about House Bill 96. So we do a lot of local government here at SecureCyber, and House Bill 96 is definitely a hot topic. If you are a podcaster and you are interested in listening to a podcast that we've been doing at SecureCyber, maybe Micah can put that in the link or in the chat so that people can look at that. But SecureCyber, we've been doing a series on House Bill 96. We've done a series on water and wastewater. I will tell you, there's been some stuff out there from a water and wastewater perspective. There's been some, I think, more threats from Iran that we need to be aware of here in the U.S., some recent threats. I don't think it's necessarily anything like specifically credible that any one entity is being targeted. But I think in general, any water, wastewater operators out there, any local governments, people operating in local government that may be watching this stream, please pay attention to that infrastructure. Micah put the SecureCyber thing inside the link. But if you are a water or wastewater operator, you're in local government, please pay special attention to that infrastructure. Watch for anything that's externally facing, for things like TeamViewer, AnyDesk. None of those remote access tools should be active inside a control system environment for any reason. So that's one of the main things that you can go check and see if that's active, and if it is, get it off of there. Going back to the House Bill 96 piece, if you're not aware, the state of Ohio passed a law in August, and it went into pieces of it are going into effect at different times in order to mandate that all political subdivisions in Ohio have to comply with a cybersecurity program. So by January 1st, I think there's around 14,000 local governments or political subdivisions in Ohio, give or take. They are all required by January 1st, most of them by January 1st. I think schools, libraries, and townships have until June or July. but the vast majority of counties and cities have until January 1st to actually adopt a program. So if you have questions on what that is, what is a program, how does it work, what should I do, which one should I choose, please share this stream with others so that we can help answer those questions. Otherwise, this is going to be a pretty one-way conversation. I can look through some more news here as we're just kind of waiting to see if there's any questions. I did run into an interesting article. How many of you have been traveling down the interstate and you come in contact with a lot? Well, hopefully you don't come into physical contact with it, but you've seen a lot of infrastructure on the roadway. Maybe it's got a solar panel. Maybe in Ohio you've seen a lot of these weather devices that are in the median that have like anemometers on them, and they've obviously they're being used to monitor the weather around the roadway. And there was an article that came out by Reuters. U.S. officials say solar-powered highway infrastructure, including chargers, roadside weather stations, and traffic cameras, should be scanned for the presence of rogue devices, such as hidden radios, secreted inside batteries, and inverters. The advisory, disseminated late last month by the U.S. Department of Transportation Federal Highway Administration, comes amid escalating government action over the presence of Chinese technology in America's transportation infrastructure. The 4-page security note, a copy of which is at the Reuters site, said that undocumented cellular radios had been discovered in certain foreign manufactured power inverters and BMSs, referring to battery management systems. So, the whole Chinese threat is a whole different topic. We could probably do a whole live stream on just that. One of the trainings that I did over the last couple weeks involved the hike vision cameras. Specifically, was the topic that came up. And there's actually a website out there that's the FCC banned list. And that list contains things like Kaspersky, which was banned from the U.S. a long time ago. Kaspersky is still in operation, but it was proven to be having connections to basically the KGB. The guy that runs Kaspersky was a descendant of the KGB inside Russia. And so there's other equipment on that list, things like Huawei. Huawei has been connected to Chinese infrastructure. And then the hike vision cameras, which are very, very common. Hike vision is very low cost IP cameras that are deployed, not just in government, but I've seen them in the private sector a lot. There's a local car wash in our area that is using hike vision, and it's because it's super cheap. However, that FCC ban list I just don't think people are aware that exists. I don't think from a lot of purchasing departments or companies that are making purchases are even thinking of that list and what to do with it. So maybe the guys in the control room can find a link to the FCC banned list that contains those devices, and we can put that in the chat as well. But that is something that you need to keep an eye on if you're in charge of purchasing at your organization. It looked like FedScoop is reporting that CISA allegedly did some mismanagement in the critical cyber talent program. So basically, more than $100 million had been spent on the program in recent years. The program was designated to help CISA retain mission-critical cybersecurity talent needed to execute its mission. Does the FCC not have the ability to enforce the ban list? The ban list right now specifically talks about purchasing inside the federal government. So any private sector or local government technically is not it's not illegal for you to make that purchase. It's specifically tied to purchasing at the federal level. However, you should be, like, from a purchasing perspective, you should be honoring that list no matter what. So it's not necessarily illegal per se, but inside the federal government, they cannot purchase anything off of that list. It's just getting the rest of the world to understand, or the rest of the U.S. at least to understand that list exists and what needs to be done with it. So anyway, back to the CISA question. So CISA is the entity. It's a federal entity that's over cybersecurity for the entire U.S. It's a federal government entity that's in charge of cybersecurity for mainly the 16 critical infrastructure organizations in the U.S. So CISA actually breaks down all critical infrastructure into 16 areas. And you may say, well, what is critical infrastructure? It is water, wastewater, and power for sure. And then it's things like 911 and cellular, and there's agriculture, there's mass transit, trains and those types of things. All of those critical infrastructure areas and more utilize the internet or internet connected devices in order to operate. So basically what happened was there was some money that was allocated for the federal government and local government have this problem. They have a hard time going out and retaining top talent. The private sector definitely pays more, and they generally win quite often, and have a really hard time competing with the pay. CISA was awarded some money that if they were able to, if they could identify key talent inside CISA that they would want to keep in order to maintain, that could be in the interest of national security. You want to keep these people. They had additional money that they could pay them more, that would potentially come into alignment with private sector funds in order to keep that top talent inside the federal government. So apparently there was either some misuse or some misreporting on those funds, and I'm not sure if CISA used that. I haven't read the report in full. If I read all these reports in full, that's all I would do. There's another one on my desk that's very large regarding local government and critical infrastructure I need to get through. But apparently, allegedly, this money was not used properly, so there was some issue there. Still no questions, so I'm just going to take a drink of coffee because my throat is getting raw from talking so much. So there's a question back to the FCC question. The U.S. bans imports of a lot of Chinese products, EVs, Huawei devices. Why does Hikvision not get put in that category? Hikvision is listed inside there, but it's the same. They're inside the FCC ban list. I think it's the same. Your question is going into the direction of like drones. So there's conversation right now of DJI being banned inside the United States. It's not actually been done yet, and there's going to be a lot of blowback from that when it does happen. But from what we've been able to tell, DJI self-banned themselves, and I don't know if it's still true, but for a while you weren't able to actually purchase anything off the DJI site because they weren't actually sending any devices to the U.S. So I think it's hard to answer your question specifically because I think there's a fine line in the federal government realm to actually start banning devices, right? So actually telling consumers and businesses and government entities in the U.S. that you are not allowed, you're prohibited, it's against the law, you're funding terrorism, that's a hard line to follow. So right now, I think training and guidance is the best thing. I think just educating the public of the risks that China imposes inside the United States. There's a lot going on from a chip perspective to ensure that certain chips are manufactured inside the United States. We're still fighting that war. Inside Ohio, there's the Intel plant, but it's had some issues getting online for one reason or the other. And But however, no matter what political side that you're on, some of the work that we're seeing right now inside the government involves some of these organizations coming back into the U.S. and manufacturing on U.S. soil, which is very helpful from a national security perspective. So just keep in mind the whole DJI thing is something that's likely going to continue on from a discussion perspective, and I would expect to see more on that in the coming days. There's still been a lot of local governments being attacked. I know Nevada, the state of Nevada, is recovering from a major cyber attack. They are indicating that the governor of Nevada said that in a press briefing in Las Vegas that totaled about 150 million hits to the state's firewalls in 72 hours following the first press conference discussing the attack that they had that was detected on August 24th, so just not too long ago. The state official described it as a security incident. If you are curious why people don't use the word breach, it's because it's a legal term. Anything that we investigate for any of our clients is a cybersecurity incident, and it's an incident until somebody other than us, who's a lawyer, actually deems it as a breach. So that's why you see that, and that's why organizations talk like security incident until they're able to prove that legally. So the governor said that the state has been able to restore about 90% of its public-facing websites and services following the apparent ransomware attack. So, from a planning perspective, I can tell you, the incidents that we've investigated, that's probably one of the number one things that goes wrong is organizations are just not prepared for the incident. And you may say, look, Sean, that you're a professional. You work in cybersecurity. It's probably really easy for you to say all this. Yeah, but I also worked in government. I worked for 19 years in local government. I was an IT director. I was a police officer. I was a 911 operator. And I understand the lack of resources in government. I really do. I lived that. And however, times have severely changed. Cybersecurity has become a major institution, a major threat inside the U.S. We cannot just turn devices off and just disconnect off the grid and make it go away. So organizations just aren't prepared. You're not prepared for this. All it takes, excuse me, really all it takes is just sitting down at lunch and having a discussion. That's a tabletop. It doesn't have to be anything super formal. You don't have to do tons of planning to make it happen. What if you just ordered pizza and sat around the room and said, hey, let's talk about a cyber attack. We have a dozen servers. All 12 of them are infiltrated with ransomware. How do we respond? Who do we call? Do you have everyone's cell phone numbers? Do you have the call list? And more importantly, once you've gotten to a state where you can recover, how do you recover? A lot of organizations struggle with that. They don't have a plan. Every department wants every system online at the same time. They all want to be the priority, and they can't be. So there's going to be limited resources and funds just from a recovery perspective. And you're going to have to focus. You're going to have to focus on, do you want, if you're in local government, do you want public safety up first? Of course, you're probably going to want public safety on first. What's second? Is it finance, right? Or to be able to pay your vendors? Is it payroll? A lot of local governments do payroll on their own. And if payroll's not up, then that's going to be a problem. So really, it's about that. It's about getting in front of the situation, talking about recovery, making sure that leadership understands that recovery could take weeks or months. I think there's some expectation that you're just up in a few weeks and you're ready to go, and that's just not the reality. Especially if you're to a point where you're decrypting devices, and for whatever reason you've had to pay the ransom. If you've encrypted 2 terabytes of data, decrypting it could take a long time, depending on the situation. So just be prepared. I think that's about all we have for the stream. So I appreciate everybody for attending. Next time we'll do a better job of advertising. Really, we didn't want to advertise it because we wanted to kind of test this new this new format out and give the guys in the control room the ability to get back up to speed with live streaming. But it looks like we've got it down, and well, now there's 9 people in here. So if anybody, we were about to sign off, but if you have any questions, I've gone through some of the cybersecurity news. But I want to use this as an open forum every week. If you have questions about cybersecurity, both personal and business, put them in the chat. If you become victim of identity theft, if you've had elderly loved ones that have fallen victim and you don't know what to do, this is the opportunity to know that we're going to do this once a week and to have those questions ready and get them answered. If we don't know how to answer them, we can at least queue it and get you to someone that's more qualified. But I truly believe that everyone needs an opportunity to go somewhere, ask a question, and get some guidance, whether it's the actual answer or just point me in the right direction. So before we end the stream, if there are any questions at all that you have, please don't hesitate to put them in right now, and I will answer your question live. Happy to do that. We will continue to do the weekly cyber update live as often as we possibly can. We'll even try and do it live from the road to give you the latest upcoming news and what threats are coming, what you should be looking for, and then, of course, be able to answer these questions live with just any burning questions that you have about cyber. Cyber is a big field. There's a lot of questions out there. There's a lot of technology. There's a lot of vendors. I totally realize that I am a vendor, but I've also know enough that I just need to educate the public. We can turn technical speak into plain English, so hopefully whatever question you do ask, I will be able to answer in plain English and keep it simple for you. So are there no other questions at all? I will take a sip of my coffee and let you guys type in a question if you want. All right. Hearing none, thank you very much for coming. And the way I usually sign off, if you wonder why I sign off the way I sign off and say, let's be careful out there, I'm a child of the 80s, and there was a really cool show out there called Hill Street Blues. And at the end of roll call, the sergeant would always sign off. And hey,